Welcome back. So today I want to talk about a movie that I watched and some big picture stuff on that. I also want to confirm that yes, this is a brand new. It's labeled as the child with egg canister. It's Grogu from Mandalorian, and here he is with the control knob, and here he is down here just being Grogu. So they're the only Funkos that I bother with anymore. I occasionally might see a Rick and Morty that I like, but basically once I'd filled up the set, I could just stop because if I replace ones here, where do they go? Right. So I want to talk about He's All That, and it's a movie that I think exposes how the industry's changed over the last year and a half. I think with the economic slowdown and with difficulties of getting productions made, I think what it's allowed how do I put this? It's allowed for things that wouldn't normally have been considered movies to become successful movies. So what might have been a made-for-TV movie years ago, now it's kind of like, just put it on a streaming platform, we'll treat it like a regular movie. Because there are some big movies that release on streaming at the same time as they release in the theater. And so you just pay your premium fee, and it's likely going to be cheaper than going to the theater, getting popcorn, tickets, and everything else. And it can be a headache if you're bringing kids. So I understand there are people who look at that, if it's Disney Plus or whoever that's saying it's an extra $30 for this movie. If you have kids, that $30 for that movie is a lifesaver. You don't have to worry about your kids acting up. You don't have to worry about anything. You just sit down, you watch the movie, and you can pause it, tell them to zip it. So there are some benefits to having the movies at home, and of course there's the debate about how that changes the ecosystem when it comes to movies. But He's All That to me. And I want to say it's sort of like the Jack and Jill argument, the Adam Sandler movie that's not really a movie. It's just a bunch of product placement, and it's a bunch of money for Adam Sandler's buddies, right? It pretends it's a movie. It has some of the ideas of a movie, but Jack and Jill really isn't a movie. Now, He's All That kind of suffers from some of the same thing. And if you haven't seen it, I watched it. I watched it, and then I watched it again with my wife because I had to figure out, okay, is this really this weird or is it just me? It could just be me. I could just be old. It could just be me. She was as weirded out by it as I was. So it is a retelling of She's All That, but without the character development. She's All That was not a Oscar-winning movie. It was not one of the all-time greatest movies ever. But Rachel Lee Cook was pretty good in it. I believe it's Freddie Prinze Jr.'s in that one, right? There was some good acting in it. This one, I will say, Addison Rae did a good job. She's had some criticism, but this is her first acting role. I think we learned in this movie that the Kardashians shouldn't be in movies as actors. That was terrible. I think it's what Courtney was in this. Just don't. Just don't. I'm just saying straight out, no. That was terrible. The lines were delivered so flatly, and so that was the one that to me really stood out. But it's this movie that this influencer. She's got all these TikTok followers, which for Addison Rae is right in her wheelhouse because she's a star on TikTok. And so she loses followers because she catches her boyfriend with another girl. Now, that's where the movie kind of lost me at one point because I was like, wait a minute. I have some experience with social media, and I pay attention to the drama, even though I have a hockey channel and I have this channel, and I stay out of the drama. I don't talk about drama, but I pay attention because sometimes some of the other big channels can make advertisers angry, which influences how much money the rest of us are making. So it's important to know what's going on at the top of the food chain because that all trickles down to those of us at the bottom, or doesn't trickle down, in that we don't have the income. So it's important to keep track of that. But I thought Addison did a good job as portraying this person, this losing followers because her boyfriend was cheating on her, which doesn't happen. I can't think of a time when there's a controversy where both sides sometimes gain subscribers. Yes, you do see channels lose subscribers over controversies, but not because their boyfriend was cheating out, and the boyfriend doesn't pick up a whole bunch of subscribers from that. So that's where I thought the writers got it wrong. I was like, that's not how it works. But she makes a bet with her friend, who very clearly is not her friend, played by Madison Pettis is the one that plays Alden. Alden's her friend. She's not listed here as with their name. But what's weird is that they go through this whole storyline with Tanner Buchanan, who is better known as Robbie Keane on Cobra Kai, and that's why I watched this. I thought, well, it's got him in it, so it might be all right. Um, there are some inconsistencies here. First off, the actor who's playing the loser in this movie, it reminded me of Chloe Moritz playing Carrie. Chloe Moritz was probably too attractive for that role. Yeah, I mean, she could be an outcast in school, but odds are probably not with guys. And in this movie, the idea that Tanner Buchanan wouldn't have any girls in school, at least looking at him, because he's got long hair, and a hat on. He was wearing the hat because he's wearing a wig, so at least that's how it appeared to me, and that's Clerks 2 material. In Clerks 2, they wear hats to cover up the fact that they're losing their hair, and in this case, he was covering up the fact that he's got a decent haircut. So it was weird, but there are parts of this movie that don't feel like a movie. They have a dance battle at the prom. They never show them like rehearsing the dance off. It's two warring factions dancing against each other, but it's not set up in any way, and it's not mentioned again after. And these people who are supposed to be really not getting along are doing this perfect choreography together. And this is not a musical. I think it's important for me to point out this movie's not a musical. If this movie had been a musical, I would have been fine with it. But there's some weird moments. Like, there's a moment, too, where Addison's character is... They've got her listed as Zach? No, she wasn't. That's not the... That's... No. They've got all the names of the characters wrong on here. Yeah, that's not right. So... Yeah, no. Until you get into the secondary characters and then they get them right. So that's kind of weird. But anyways, so she's singing at this karaoke party because these kids have all kinds of money and no parents. And when their parents are around, they're just kind of like deer caught in headlights. Except for Rachel Lee Cook, who should be in this movie a lot more than she is. She's such a good actress, and she's not in the movie enough. And she was Lainey in the original She's All That movie. But she's doing this karaoke, and then she sees her boyfriend with the new girlfriend, and she starts like stuttering the words, and she can't remember Teenage Dream from Katy Perry. And then Tanner's character, the guy she's remaking into being hot or whatever, making him the prom king, he comes over and starts singing it with her for the karaoke, and she starts getting like followers back because he's singing karaoke with her. Because that happens. I'm pretty sure if I had a karaoke, I don't think that's not gonna work. For me, definitely not. And if that was her singing, she can sing. But the weird thing is that it's already been established that he listens to Bad Religion, Bad Brains, and he listens to like punk music. How would he know every single word to Teenage Dream then? I don't know every single word to Teenage Dream. And, I mean, people know what I listen to for the most part, right? So it makes sense that I wouldn't know all the words to Teenage Dream. He just jumps in. And then it's just sort of done. And then they leave. And it's like, wait, what? Wait, how is it? There's a lot. It's like all these scenes happen. There's no character development. If a character at the start of the movie is a jerk, they're a jerk at the end. The only difference is her friend Quinn, who goes from vacuous at the beginning of the movie to just being smart and really down to earth in the next scene. You would think it's a completely different character. Or you're like, okay, so that's the same actress, right? I had that reaction the first time I watched it. I was like, that's the same actress. But what this movie symbolizes to me, it's a new kind of movie. So they get this script idea. They get, in this case, Addison Rae, somebody they know has a big social media presence. They put these things together. They probably know the script's not that strong, so you have to have a dance battle to get it up to 90 minutes, which is what it is. it's like a 3.5 minute dance battle, and then they have other dance scenes in there too. Just weird. And then she flings horse poop at him, and that's like flirty. And I'm like, why would a rich girl pick up horse crap? With your hand. Just nobody does that. But it is one of these new movies where it's not a traditional movie, and I think this is where Netflix is heading with it. Odds are it's cheaper. Odds are it's quicker, and odds are that turnaround time means that they can get more and more in there. It's a criticism that's been leveled at Netflix for the last few years, where there's more and more material on Netflix, but it's not better material. So where we all remember, right? Well, most of us I think would remember when House of Cards first came out, and it was like, okay, this is a really great series. And then Orange is the New Black. This is fantastic, and you're telling everybody. I find with Netflix that's not as common as it used to be, and I could absolutely have somebody say, "Well, you've talked about Cobra Kai. That started out on YouTube. That didn't start out on Netflix. Netflix picked it up for season 3." So, in terms of really creating brand new shows, Netflix isn't creating that same quality. They've gone more for the quantity side of it. And if your movie can be the number one movie on Netflix for a couple of weeks, well, then you get a bunch more. Addison Rae's been given a bunch more money to produce and create other movies and produce. And I think she'll do well. I do understand that there's a dislike out there for her. And I don't know who she reminds me of, but if anybody can figure out, her face looks like some celebrity that I've seen many times over. Yvonne thought it might be somebody from the 80s. That she was reminiscent of, but it was one of those things where during the movie, as it was going, the first time I watched it, I was like, I know I've seen her somewhere, and so I look her up, and I'm like, no, this is her first show. I don't follow her on TikTok, so I have no idea, but she looks and sounds like somebody, and it escapes me who it is because I'm old, so that's what happens. If you haven't seen He's All That, it's it is bewildering. It it's a unique experience. I can put it that way. There are a lot of pardon moments followed by groans as well when there's characters that you'd like to see more. Like Rachel Lee Cook plays Addison's mother in this movie, and she's great. Every time she's on the screen, she's fantastic, and her lines are pretty good, which tells me some of the lines might be improv because the writing seemed to be better for some characters than others. So either there was some improv in there or they made the effort with some of the secondary characters. I don't know. It was just, I kind of wanted to see, like, her mother's a nurse. And I thought, it might be kind of interesting if they showed the mom at the hospital and going through a rough day at work and all the work she's doing to try to make sure that her daughter can stay in this area code so she can go to the rich kids' school. And I'd like to see more of the mom's. She doesn't have any kind of romantic life. And why is that? And what is she sacrificing so that her daughter? Oh no, we got a horse poop flinging scene instead, and another awkward scene where she's riding a horse. I don't get it. And the other thing too was there's this. When Yvonne and I watch movies together, there are times where we'll watch a movie and we'll say, whoever wrote this is writing this in a way that they think humans talk. I know there's other reviewers that I've heard with this. I think Red Letter Media has said it. I know there's other reviewers that have said it. The idea that maybe aliens write movies and they write them the way they think humans speak. This kind of has some of that going for it, where you're like, that's not really how humans communicate. So it's got some really cringy lines in there. I may watch it again at some point and write down the cringiest of the lines in it because it is interesting. But I'd be interested to know your thoughts on this movie if you've seen it. Did you get all the way through it? I could totally understand if people didn't. For me, it's a... If I had to scale it out of 5, I'd say that the actors did the best with what they had. I'd probably give it a 2. But for a movie that kind of has this car crash feel to it and you just can't look away, you could up that to a 2.5 out of 5. Sure. It was different. And again, it feels like we're going to have that whole industry now where they're movies that are thrown together very quickly, probably pretty cheaply, that'll have one known person in them, and it'll just kind of go from there, which is, I think, the Adam Sandler formula. So yeah, maybe Adam Sandler started this, and we're just still going through the after effects of Adam Sandler making 25 movies a week, and just putting on a weird wig and just, here's my new character. It's just me again, being aggravating. Maybe that's what it is. All right, let me know your thoughts, though, in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. The channel's been growing nicely, so yes, you will definitely see more content on this channel, and I do intend to keep that up when hockey season gets going, because I still think there's a lot of opportunities for this channel to grow, and I want to see it do that. Because it is fun to talk about other things, not always just hockey. I find that that's more refreshing and invigorating to talk about something else, do a video on something else, and use this wonderful set. All right, thank you guys so much for all your support. And if you haven't already done so, like and subscribe. Those buttons are your friends. Thanks again. I'll talk to you guys soon.